As you can tell, I'm just recording a bunch of these evil Digimon ones on the same day. Uh, so, Next up for the evil Digimon that they have to deal with is actually the kind of the first evil Digimon that they have to deal with when they get to the continent of Server. They leave File Island after they defeat Devimon, and then they go to the continent of Server. On Server, the first main Digimon that they end up having to interact with, or the first main villain Digimon that they have to interact with, is a Digimon called Etemon. Now, Etemon, as I stated in some of the previous videos in regards to when the Digidestined have to deal with him, take Elvis Presley and make him an orange monkey. Yeah. Yeah. Etemon is interesting. He's very musically inclined at the very least. He at least doesn't, I mean, like, they have him sing, and it's not bad singing, he's just too full of himself. Etemon has what he refers to as his dark network, which are these giant black cables that run all over the digital world, that run all over certain areas in the continent of Server, that allow him to monitor where any of his enemies are. And what ends up happening is Etemon then uses his, this network. He has his minions, which are most of these Gazimon type Pokemon, which are these kind of like rabbit-ish type Pokemon. I think they're kind of cute. They're not exactly they're not the best Digimon in the world, but they're kind of cute in my opinion. They're the ones that like drive Etemon around in his tour van, and like help connect and run the dark network, that help keep Etemon in control of his section of the digital world. Now, as I mentioned, Devimon, Etemon, and Myotismon are all Digimon that were created by Apocalypse. They were born out of Apocalypse's chaos when the digital world was first born, and it's kind of they keep getting recycled. Although, as far as I can remember, after season 1, we don't ever see Etemon again. Devimon gets the pop up in season 2 when he's in the giant swirling void of darkness, and then of course Myotismon, we have him in he's the main middle villain in season 1, and then he pops up at the end of season 2 with Oikawa and Melamyotismon. But we don't really see that much of, we don't see anything else of Etemon as far as I'm aware after he gets defeated in season 1. But what ends up happening is, of course, Etemon wants to capture the Digidestined because they're, a threat to his plan to rule the digital world. And he tries to use various Digimon to try to stop them. One of the ones that he tries to use is, of course, the other Greymon that he tries to use that has like this collar on it that allows him to kind of control it. So I guess it's a predecessor to like Ken's Dark Rings. And, Etemon's goal is to, of course, use this evil Greymon in order to, well, he's not evil, it's just being controlled. This Greymon in order to try to fight Tai and his group. Because, Tai has Greymon as well. And this is, of course, when Tai is trying to prove himself to the rest of them because he's the only one that has his crest at the moment. And he's trying to prove himself to the rest of the Digidestined. And he then uses his power, he kind of forces Greymon to Digivolve, which does not work. And that's where we get, this is where we get Skull Greymon from. And of course, what ends up happening is, Skull Greymon causes a lot of problems, and, then he Digivolves all the way back down to Koromon, and Tai spends the next episode or two, apologizing and, regretting what he had done and everything. And of course, the Digidestined travel around a bit more. And then I think we meet another Digimon that is actually kind of Etemon's henchman. The Digidestined are in a desert, and then they come across this like cruise ship in the desert that's like sailing on the sand, which I'm just like, okay, it's the digital world. Physics kind of went out the window a while ago with the hiding tree. Physics went out the window a long time ago with Digimon. Beyond the fact of you fall, unless you're in the wrong area, and then you fall up. That reminds me of the Falling Up book, like the book of poetry that you could read when you were a kid. You can still read it now. Nothing's preventing you from reading, the Falling Up or, where the sidewalk ends, those ones. I liked those books, those poems. They were fun. Back to this. But they come across this cruise ship, and the guy that's running the cruise ship actually turns out to be this chicken-ish type Digimon that I do not remember what it's called, but I'll pop the image of it and the name up here. And what ends up happening is his job is to try to, get the crests away from the Digidestins, and then, separate the Digidestin from their Digimon, and then he has the power to turn them to stone, if I remember correctly. I think he's based off of, like, the concept of, like, the basilisk. He's like that, and not like the basilisk from Harry Potter, the basilisk in the kind of the sense of the chicken version of a basilisk, I guess, or the rooster version of it, I guess, because I think if I remember correctly, he could turn them to stone, but I could be wrong on that. But he, uses his power on the Digidestin, and it's Sora and Mimi working together that actually end up defeating him. And then, of course, they beat him, and then they save the rest of their friends, and then they keep going. And then they end up having to deal with Etemon some more. This is when they interact with Piximon, who helps Tai kind of get his confidence back, which is good. And this is, Piximon helps Tai. And then, of course, they end up having to deal with Etemon again. But they also have to end up dealing with his kind of other henchman type thing that is called Datamon. Datamon is this robotic type Digimon that actually ends up kidnapping Sora. He wants to, because he's already found Sora's crest of love, and he wants to make a clone of Sora, and then use the clone of Sora along with Beelmon, and use Sora to make Beelmon, use the clone Sora that'll be under his control in order to make Beelmon Digivolve to then have Beelmon fight Etemon and free Datamon from having to work for Etemon. Datamon is a very bad Digimon. He is not nice. As I said, he kidnapped a child, and, kind of wanted to kill the rest of the Digidestin because he didn't care what happened to them. And what ends up happening is Datamon is actually in charge of keeping Etemon's dark network up and running. Datamon despises having to work for Etemon, and he's kind of trapped in this upside down pyramid type thing, and he kind of can't leave there type of a thing. And Etemon kind of uses Datamon a bit as a slave. He is an evil Digimon, so I don't necessarily have sympathy for Datamon in this case. Some of the bad Digimon I have a slight bit of sympathy for. Other ones, nope. Etemon, nope. Devimon, nope. Datamon, nope. Ogremon, he turns good, so yeah, he gets sympathy. Some of the other evil Digimon, Godamon, not actually bad. Wizardmon, not actually bad. Myotismon, don't have sympathy for him. Devimon, don't have sympathy for him. Yeah. Yeah, don't really have sympathy for any of them. Dark Masters. Puppetmon a little bit, but not too much, mostly just because, he wanted friends to play with, and if he hadn't been so deranged, he could have had them. The rest of the Digimon, not so much. Apocalypmon, nope. Yeah, it's like, run through the evil Digimon. Sympathy for them, nope. Diaboromon. A little bit for Diaboromon in regards to the way that he came into being, but in the end, no, not really. But what ends up happening is Tai and the rest of the group, with Izzy's help, this is when Tai does actually manage to activate his Crest of Courage, because he has to face his fear in order to go and help Sora. And Tai makes his way into the pyramid, and he finds Sora. He saves her, and this is when Greymon. This is when Tai makes his way into the pyramid and is able to save Sora. And this is when Greymon digivolves into Metal Greymon for the first time. And there's actually these kind of two battles going on right now, because it's Tai and Sora having to deal with Datamon, and then there's also Etemon showed up, and he's attacking at the same time. So the rest of the group are outside trying to deal with Etemon. And what ends up happening is, I don't remember if it's like Datamon sets up like a self-destruct on the dark network or what, but like something happens and the dark network kind of ends up getting engulfed. Like there's this giant wormhole that shows up, and it's kind of like a combination of oh, I can't remember exactly what happens, but we get like Etemon Chaos Mode, which is Etemon with like all the different wires and the parts of the dark network all kind of attached around him, and they're all like wrapped around like the bottom half of his body, and it's just this huge hodgepodge of wires and cords and everything, and then like just like little tiny Etemon at the top. Um, and it's like all wrapped around him and everything, and he's like fully integrated with his dark network at the time. And Datamon kind of got, I think, absorbed into him too. And they get great, Metal Greymon is there, and he's able to protect the others. And then there's this giant wormhole that opens up, and this is where Etemon gets sucked into that, and he gets sent off to wherever in the universe. And this is when Tai and Metal Greymon get sucked into the wormhole, and they get sent to the real world. And then of course we have Tai interacting with Kari in the real world, and then he comes back. But when Tai gets back, we just move on, and that's when we deal with all the annoying stuff that Devimon does, and when we deal with Myotismon. And then, after they deal with Myotismon in the real world and everything, and they come back to the digital world and they're dealing with the Dark Masters, this is when Mimi and Joe are off on their own, and this is when they end up having to deal with Metal Etemon. Because Etemon, there's like this meteorite that crashes into the digital world, into the forest near where Joe and Mimi are, because this is when the Digidestined are all kind of split up into their different groups. And Mimi and Joe were on their own because Mimi is kind of being her pacifistic self at the time, which, as I stated in Mimi's video, and I think as I stated in a couple of the other videos, I don't blame Mimi for wanting to be a pacifist. I don't particularly care for war or fighting either, but I do understand the difference between when you're doing it just for the heck of fighting, when you're just doing it for the joy of fighting, and it's just death for no reason, and when it's being done for a good cause, and you're trying to protect your friends or your family or something along those lines. There is a difference there. And Mimi and Joe end up going to try to see what the meteorite was, and this is when they have interacted with Ogremon already. And what ends up happening is, out of the meteorite comes Metal Etemon, who is now still Elvis Presley impersonator Digimon, but now he's covered in what is it, Digimetal or whatever it's called. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but he's covered in this metal. And this is when Saber Leomon shows up, and Saber Leomon ends up, protecting Mimi and Joe, and then they find out that Saber Leomon is actually Leomon, and that he was able to Digivolve, and then they end up having to deal with Metal Etemon some more. This is when Leomon jumps in front of the attack to protect Mimi, so Mimi doesn't die, because Mimi can't be reborn in the digital world. As far as we are aware, humans cannot be reborn in the digital world. But Leomon's like, I'll be reborn. I'll be fine. And then, this is when Joe this is when Zudomon comes along. Joe involves Ikakumon, or Digivolves Ikakumon all the way up to Zudomon. And Zudomon, with his hammer, is able to, his hammer is made out of the same stuff, or a stronger material that Etemon is made out of, that his armor is made out of, and he's able to slam into Etemon, and he's able to destroy Etemon. Destroy Metal Etemon. So Metal Etemon is now out of the picture. As I said, I don't remember if we ever see Etemon again in the series. I don't think so. Not as far as I can remember, we never do. I mean, I guess if you're like if you play through one of the Digimon video games where you Digivolve where your Digimon Digivolves as you go along, and then gets, back into an egg, and then come back into an egg, and then come back, and everything as you go through the game. Maybe you could try to get an Etemon at some point. I mean, I may end up doing, it's been a while since I played the game, but I may end up doing something where I do like a playthrough where I try to get like a bunch of evil or dark type, Digimon type stuff, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I like Lady Devimon. I mean, she's not my favorite out of all of the evil Digimon, but I do like her. I like her style. And I like Lilithmon that she turns into, which is, I think, something that they go over more in some of the other Digimon series, but not any of the ones that I've seen. So that's what we have for Etemon. Again, kind of another short video in regards to the evil Digimon. But I figured a couple of these little ones give me some leeway for some of the other videos. The Myotismon ones will be longer, and probably so are the Dark Master ones. So Etemon just kind of gets a little bit more of a short one here. And of course, this is what helps Mimi get out of her funk of not wanting to fight, because she just saw another one of her friends die in regards to losing Leomon, and she doesn't want to lose any other friends. And this is when she starts gathering up all of the rest of their Digimon friends. Frigimon, Marimon, they have Ogremon. They gather up the Utamon and Gekomon and the Otamamon, so that way they can go and try to fight Piedmon, which leads into that battle with the Dark Masters, which the next episode will actually be about Myotismon, and then there'll be another one about the Dark Masters. So I'm actually just gonna stop the recording here after I say hope you enjoyed the video, hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I thank you for watching, and bye. Now I'm gonna go record the Myotismon videos, so bye.
Those rotten kids beat me again. I have to find something easier to beat, like cardboard boxes or something.